monument was dedicated in Washington, D.C., honoring the Liberator President of the Republic of Czechoslovakia, Tomas G. Masaryk. The following presentation features highlights from the September 19th events produced by the American Friends of the Czech Republic to commemorate the dedication of the statue and park. The day began with a symposium of Masaryk scholars including Martin M. Semečka, Professor Jacques Rubnik, the Honorable Petr Pitart, Chairman of the Czech Senate, Dr. Radim Paloš, and Dr. Zbigniew Brzezinski. Former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright moderated the event and shared her own thoughts about her pride being both Czech and American.
Today, as a result of the collaboration between the American Friends of the Czech Republic and the Czech Embassy, a memorial statue of President Tomas Garrick Masaryk will reach its final stage. And may I say it's about time. The principal purpose of the memorial is to recognize and celebrate a great friend to the United States and to democracy. Masaryk, also known as the President Liberator, had a lifelong intellectual relationship with America. And by erecting the statue here in Washington, he will join other great friends and leaders and allies of this country, and he will assume his place in American history as a defender of freedom, human liberty, human health, free markets, and the rule of law. The absence of a statue to Masaryk in Washington, which is acclaimed for its statues of those who fought for freedom and democracy in their own countries, is really a debt to his legacy. And by unveiling this statue, I think the debt will be cleared, and the dignified tribute to the father and first president of democratic Czechoslovakia, who had such close relations throughout his life, will be paid. He really was a true disciple of Jefferson and Lincoln, and he stands in history as one of the best embodiments of the close ties.
The events included remarks from former Slovak President Mikhail Kovac and culminated with the words of President Václav Havel, who spoke of Masaryk, the great leader, and the efforts of the American Friends of the Czech Republic to honor him with a statue in Washington, D.C.
Rád bych vás ubezpečil, že sedět na židli, na níž kdysi sedával on, není vůbec jednoduché.
Let me assure you that it is not an easy thing at all to sit in the chair where he once sat.
Nelze se totiž vyvarovat pokušení srovnávat a nelze při takovém srovnávání obstát.
It is impossible to resist the temptation to compare, and it is equally impossible to stand up to such a comparison.
Ale prapor je třeba převzít, nést dál a posléze předat.
But the banner must be picked up, carried forward, and eventually passed on.
Kéž by byl provázen i věrností Masarykovým humanitním ideálům.
May this be done in the spirit of fidelity to Masaryk's humanist ideals.
A kéž by byl provázen i onou obdivuhodnou a mnohovýznamnou vazbou mezi Čechy a Slováky na jedné straně a Američany na straně druhé, s kterou je Masarykův odkaz tak pevně svázán.
And may it be also accompanied by the remarkable and multifaceted ties between Czechs and Slovaks on the one hand, with Americans on the other. Ties that are inseparable from Masaryk's legacy.
Děkuji vám za pozornost.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, final preparations were underway to unveil the Masaryk statue, which was sculpted in Prague in 1937, but not cast because of the Nazi invasion. In 1968, it was cast in bronze during the Spring of Freedom, but once again, it had to be hidden from public view, this time for more than 2 decades as a result of the Warsaw Pact invasion. Negotiations between AFOCR and the National Museum in Prague brought the statue to New York Harbor on the 4th of July, 2002. The base of the statue was designed by Jan Herd Pokorny, prominent Czech-American architect, and includes two quotations. One of the quotes was made by Masaryk at Independence Hall in Philadelphia in 1918. He said, "We accept the American principles as laid down by President Wilson, the principles of liberated mankind, of the actual equality of nations, and of government deriving all their just power from the consent of the governed." The second quotation is from President George H.W. Bush, 41st President of the U.S., who said in Prague on 17 November 1990, the first anniversary of the Velvet Revolution, "7 decades ago, an unprecedented partnership began between two presidents, the philosopher Thomas G. Masaryk and the idealistic scholar Woodrow Wilson. It was a partnership as well among Czechs and Slovaks to join together in federation. I am proud to walk these last steps with you as one shared journey ends and another begins." The statue was transported to T.G. Masaryk Park, located at Massachusetts Avenue and 22nd Street Northwest, Washington, D.C. As the ceremony began, the dignitaries made their way across the stage. On the stage were Milton Černý, president of AFOCR, Václav Havel, president of the Czech Republic, former Slovak President Michal Kovács, Craig Stapleton, U.S. Ambassador to Prague, former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright, the Reverend Michael Rokas, Vice President AFOCR, and Charlotte Kotik, great-granddaughter of Tomas Masaryk and the oldest living descendant.
He was a liberator, he was the first president of Czechoslovakia, and he symbolizes the close and lasting ties between the United States and the Czech and Slovak peoples. This memorial honors his unique and vital role in the development of democracy in Central Europe and human rights worldwide.
I can't help but remember the story of my cousin in the Czech Republic, Věra Fischerová, who for 40 years had to hide a bust of Tomas Masaryk in her attic. How wonderful that today we can celebrate everything that this man stands for: democracy, freedom, the rights of people.
I'm very pleased now to introduce Charlotte Kotik, who is the great-granddaughter and the oldest living descendant of President Masaryk. Ms. Kotik will officially unveil the statue that is now the centerpiece of this memorial. She was born in Prague, earned a bachelor's and master's degree in art history and archaeology from Charles University. She came to the United States in 1970 and is the curator of contemporary art at the Brooklyn Museum of Art in New York City. To unveil the statue, she will cut the ribbon using a sword that was found by the Czech Legion in Siberia and given by them to President Masaryk. He in turn gave the sword in July 1918 to the Kleka family of Baltimore, and in gratitude of their generous financial support of the Czech cause. Charlotte? Let me just say a word about this statue. It was cast in 1968, even though in 1937 it was designed by the sculptor Makowski, same year that Masaryk died. But for those years of Nazi tyranny and communist rule, the statue was not permitted to be cast. In 1968, when the Prague Spring came, the bronze statue was cast, but when the Russian tanks rolled into Prague, it again was sequestered by the National Gallery in a shed on its properties, and it was never seen again. In 1990, when our next speaker and those who brought freedom back to the Czech Republic were able to speak about Masaryk and to speak about freedom and democracy, the statue once again came to life. And when the American Friends of the Czech Republic found that it was available, we began the process of looking for the site, raising the money for the statue, and today we have what I believe in Washington will be one of the most beautiful parks that's dedicated to a man who lived democracy and freedom.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tomas Garrick Masaryk, a great philosopher and later the Czechoslovak president for many years, was the principal creator of the modern democratic state of the Czechs and Slovaks. The installation of this statue is a fine way to recognize the memory of this man, and it is a great honor for all of us, Czechs and Slovaks, who now live in two friendly states. It is a tribute to our democracy and to a man who advanced it more than most. It is also a telling memento of the special internal relationship that unites our two peoples with the American people. A relationship that, in the case of my country, has led to a direct alliance within NATO. Let us hope that the same will soon be true for our Slovak brothers and sisters as well. Let me express my heartfelt gratitude to all the Czech and Slovak Americans who have helped to make this project a reality, especially to members of the American Friends of the Czech Republic. By the same token, I thank the United States Congress and the city of Washington for allowing this memorial to be situated on this place of honor. May its presence remind everyone, for all times to come, of what it is that unites the great American nation with the Czech and Slovak nations. Our shared ideals of human liberty, human rights, the rule of law, the democratic political system, a free market economy, the awareness of humanity's responsibility for the world, and awareness that, as Masaryk used to teach, stems from the realization that the miracle of the world and of human existence is not the mere interplay of haphazard occurrences, but a phenomenon that has a creator. Thank you all.
President Havel, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. We have gathered here today to unveil the statue of Tomas Garrigue Masaryk, the first president of Czechoslovakia. I feel privileged that together with Václav Havel, the President of the Czech Republic, I can pay tribute to this great man, relentless fighter for freedom and democracy and human rights, a true leader. Looking at his statue, I can almost hear him saying, quote, "I am a fundamental but not a blindfolded supporter of democracy. I know weaknesses of the regime and I have not missed a single unpleasant experience, but not even for a glimpse. I doubtful of my decision which I took when I was returning from the war, that I would serve democracy and republic," unquote. And democracy and republic he did serve well.
Democracy and freedom are the foundations of our two countries, and they are reflected in the strong ties that bind our nations as friends and allies. This shared commitment to democracy and freedom has made us partners on a number of important international efforts, including the peace missions to the Balkans and support in the war against terrorism. I have the honor to read the following letter from President Bush. I send greetings to my friend President Václav Havel and to all those gathered for the dedication of the Tomas Garrigue Masaryk Memorial. I am pleased to serve as the honorary co-chair of this event. As first President of the Republic of Czechoslovakia and author of the Czech Declaration of Independence from the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Tomas Masaryk demonstrated that freedom requires commitment, perseverance, and vision. His friendship with President Woodrow Wilson formed the foundation for an important relationship between Americans and Czechs. Today, the United States and the Czech Republic stand as close allies, united by a common tradition of liberty and dedicated to a future of opportunity and hope for all. I commend the American Friends of the Czech Republic for your efforts to commemorate Tomas Masaryk's life and accomplishments. By celebrating his courage, sacrifice, and devotion, you inspire our citizens to learn more about this important figure in the history of democracy. Laura joins me in sending our best wishes for a memorable event. Sincerely, George W. Bush.
In every program, there's one individual who needs no introduction. And surely we have several of them here on the stage. But the next individual that I would like to introduce to you has been introduced to you many times. If we had to check a list of Czech Americans who have contributed the most, who has the greatest name recognition, etc., there'd only be one person at the top of that list, and that would be Madeleine Albright. A year ago, I asked Madeleine, Madeleine, we would like you to join our organization, the American Friends of the Czech Republic. And she looked at me and she said, Milton, don't you know that I am a friend of the Czech Republic? And I said, Madeleine, you certainly are. So let me introduce you now to Madeleine Albright.
Milt, thank you very much, and we all owe you a great debt of gratitude for having really pulled this off. So I really appreciate everything that you have done. President Havel and President Kovács, I'm so very glad that you are here. You're such a good friend, and you symbolize so much, and I'm so pleased that you could be with us. Ambassador Stapleton, ambassadors all, there are many of you out there, and friends. I have lived in Washington for more than 30 years, and I've taken walks by monuments honoring various Americans and various foreign leaders. And I always wondered, where was a statue of Tomas Garrigue Masaryk? I couldn't believe, given his close ties with the United States, that there wasn't one. And today we have rectified that, and I'm honored to participate in this ceremony. Tomas Garrigue Masaryk the first president and liberator of Czechoslovakia, proudly stated on many occasions that his new country was based on principles he had learned and seen in America. Masaryk loved America because he saw in this great country the embodiment of the aspirations of his own people to be independent, democratic, and free. When Masaryk heard about this country's recognition of his new republic, he said, "Yes, we accept with joy this declaration, the more so because though being Czechoslovaks by birth, we all can say we are Americans already. There is an Americanization going on all over the world because all nations must accept the principle of liberty proclaimed by the Declaration of Independence, proclaimed by Washington, by Lincoln, by Wilson, and by all Americans." Tomas Masaryk continues to be revered today because he stood up for truth when others feared truth. He defied empire when emperors ruled most of the world. He created a humane and democratic tradition when others were plotting to destroy Europe with hate. How appropriate that we dedicate this monument we have today, and we have with us another great Czech president, Václav Havel, whose own actions have shown that Masaryk's teachings remain relevant in our time and in the future. Their commitment, these two presidents, to freedom, democracy, and human rights are ideals that transcend time, geography, and ethnicity. Welcome back to Washington, a place in which you lived, President Masaryk. We are glad to have you here, a great democratic president in the capital of the world's oldest democracy.
As this part of the program draws to a close, I think you all have heard great words about democracy and freedom, and they do burn in the hearts of all of us, whether there's Czech or Slovak blood that runs through it, or whether we believe as Americans in the principles for which Masaryk, President Havel, and President Kovács lived. I would like to, at this point, have a brief period of silence so that we can reflect on what has occurred here today, and then our ceremony will be concluded. So if you will just bow your heads for a moment. Now, according to protocol, to complete this ceremony before we depart, we now must officially dedicate the memorial with the placing of wreaths at the statue. As President Havel, President Kovács, and Ambassador Stapleton place these wreaths, the Navy Band will play another President Masaryk favorite song entitled Ah Suchnu Suchnu. It tells of an old farmer who asks his son whether he has done all his plowing for the day. When the son responds that his plow is broken, the father chides him to learn to repair it. So may we have now the laying of the wreaths?
Over 700 people watched as the 12-foot-high likeness of Masaryk was unveiled and dedicated. Many of the attendees then made their way to the atrium of the World Bank building for an evening of dedication, music, thanks, and remembrance.
Ach, synku, synku, doma lisy. Ach, synku, synku, doma lisy. Tatíček se ptal, orali si. Tatíček se ptal, orali si.
Ladies and gentlemen, by decision of the President of the Czech Republic from the 18th of August 2002 to award the state decorations of the Czech Republic, the President has decided, in accordance with the Constitution and with the Act of the State Decorations of the Czech Republic, to award the Medal of Merit in recognition of outstanding service for the benefit of the Czech Republic to Milton Černý for memorial service to the Czech Republic. To Frank Merlo in memoriam for meritorious service to the Czech Republic. The award is accepted by his wife, Irene Marlow. To Joseph Lane Kirkland in memoriam for meritorious service to Czech Republic. The award is accepted by his wife, Irena Kirkland. To Peter Charles Schulz for outstanding scientific achievements. And to Jan Francis Tříska for meritorious service for the Czech Republic. Jan Francis Tříska is unfortunately ill, so the prize will be accepted by John William Tříska, his son.
President Havel, Ambassador Palush, and distinguished guests, I've been asked to say a few words on behalf of each of those who received these awards. To begin with, I would like to thank you on behalf of each of us for recognizing us and our accomplishments in support of the Czech Republic through the granting of these medals. I'm especially proud of my own Czech heritage. My grandparents emigrated to America in 1906 with a dream of a better life for their families. I am the first in my family to attend college, and I began my own scientific career just as the laser was invented. My invention of fiber optics to guide those laser signals helped to revolutionize global communications. How proud my grandparents would be to see me receive this prestigious medal in recognition of this invention. Truly, they would be happy to know that their American dream led to this result. Several of the honorees have been recognized here today for their active fight for the freedom of the Czech Republic. During these dark days of today, of global terrorism, I consider also myself somewhat of a freedom fighter. For through my invention, the foundation was laid upon which the high-speed global internet was built. While developing these fibers, I believe they could revolutionize communications. Today they have. We are all closer and more of a global community than ever before, but we still have a long way to go. I can only hope that such communication systems will help over time to break down the geographic and cultural barriers which breed hate, fear, and violence. After all, today, every time we pick up a telephone or get on the computer for the internet, we are communicating over beams of light, and evil hates light. On behalf of each of us, I thank you very much.
As the reception drew to a close, dinner guests moved to the elegant ballroom of the World Bank building for the Civil Society Vision Awards dinner. The honorees were the World Bank, represented by its president, James D. Wolfenson, Maurice R. Greenberg, CEO of AIG, the American International Group, and Frederick V. Malik of Thayer Capital Partners. President George W. Bush and President Václav Havel together served as honorary co-chairmen of the events. President Havel, as the highest-ranking person present, spoke at the dinner of the desperate need for flood relief in the Czech Republic following the August storms. President Havel expressed gratitude for the money already raised and the generous support shown by the American people and the American friends of the Czech Republic. Havel gave freely of his time, attending all of the major events scheduled throughout the day on September 19th. This was the second time that AFOCR presented the Civil Society Vision Award. The first recipient of the award in 2000 was Secretary of State Madeleine Albright, who was also on hand throughout the day and shared the moments with this year's honorees.
This afternoon's dedication of the Tomas Garrigue Masaryk Memorial was a fitting tribute to a true hero, and we are celebrating Václav Havel's final visit to the United States as President of the Czech Republic. As Madeleine Albright could say, what more could you want? Together, these two remarkable public figures have advanced the notion of a civil society worldwide, as well as bringing an enormous sense of pride to all people of Czech and Slovak descent. We are honored to have former Slovak President Michael Kovács with us to attend the ceremony and to speak his words with regard to democracy and freedom. Our mission at the American Friends of the Czech Republic is to perpetuate these standards of leadership. Specifically, we have plans to develop educational programs which will train young leaders in the Czech Republic and the Slovak Republic to continue the Masaryk vision of a humane society. With your support tonight, we hope this mission will be accomplished. And because of so much of the support of so many friends of the Czech Republic here and around the world, relief and cleanup efforts continue in Prague, which was ravaged by devastating floods just a month ago. In my private life, I'm a tax attorney dealing with philanthropic organizations. It was wonderful for me to see the work that was being done, where people volunteered their time to help bail out the ravaged city. We've represented here this evening with some remarkable people. I would like Bill White to stand, of the Mott Foundation. The Mott Foundation gave $100,000 to the People in Need Foundation group. I'd like to also recognize AmeriCares, and I think Nan Shattuck is here with us tonight. And if not, I'd like to recognize the work that they did to immediately bring disinfectants and vaccines, etc., to people to be immediately inoculated to prevent the spread of disease. I'd like to also recognize the Star Foundation. And the Star Foundation has been very generous in its gift to us for flood relief. As of tonight, we have received approximately $200,000 for flood relief purposes in the Czech Republic. We recognize the work of all organizations, and in particular, I'd like to recognize this evening Biz 97, the Havel Foundation, who through Dagmar and Václav Havel have taken steps to help in the flood relief, and we are proud that we will be able to support them in their efforts in these various projects. But the projects are almost daunting. We have, from reports, that $2 billion of property damage, and that is probably low, was suffered. We had 200,000 people were displaced. There is a great need. So I encourage you to look at the materials that we have published, look at the different organizations that are working, trying to help the Czechs rebuild and to restore. It's critically important. Winter is coming on with regard to a number of these small villages, and they need help. So we encourage you all to join in this effort. And now I'd like to introduce our Master of Ceremonies and present him with a token of appreciation for his gracious service as MC tonight. And I'd like to introduce Sam Donaldson, who served for 2 appointments with the White House Correspondents, and he was, of course, co-anchor with Cokie Roberts on the ABC News Sunday. I always tell my wife I go to early church so I can come back and watch Sam on television, because if you want someone to get at the heart of an issue, it's Sam. So Sam, if you would come up here, I'd appreciate it. And I'm going to give this to you, Sam, even before you do your bit up here, but because I know it's going to be a tremendous job.
Yeah, but what if you don't like what I do? We would take it back?
I may.
Thanks, Mel.
Thanks you.
So. Thank you, Mel. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to be the Master of Ceremonies here tonight. When I was asked, I was first amazed that you would think of me, and then I was very pleased. And I promise to move things along, and even though there is a president present, I will call out no questions tonight, just tonight. The focus of this special day for America and the Czech and Slovak republics has been the creation and dedication of the Tomas Masaryk Memorial, the statue that now stands tall here in Washington at Massachusetts Avenue. Masaryk stands in history as the embodiment of politics based on truth and morality. He fought against anti-Semitism and bigotry of all kinds, as well as for the rights of women. So I can think of no more appropriate person to invite up here now to pay tribute to him than our next speaker. As 64th Secretary of State of the United States, she was the first woman Secretary of State and is the highest-ranking woman in the history of the U.S. government. As Secretary, she reinforced America's alliances, advocated democracy and human rights, and promoted American trade and business, labor, and environmental standards abroad. During her tenure, she was responsible for the expansion and modernization of NATO and NATO's successful campaign to reverse ethnic cleansing in Kosovo. The reduction of nuclear dangers from Russia was one of her accomplishments, also North Korea, and the promotion of peace in the Middle East and the Balkans, and the expansion of democracy in Europe, Africa, Asia, and Latin America. And as a citizen of a Czech descent, she has shown a sensitivity and expertise to matters at home and abroad that have firmly established her place in history as one of our greatest diplomats. She was honored 2 years ago in New York City by this very organization. And I must tell you, I've liked her for a long, long time, not just admired her. And when she stepped down as Secretary of State a few days before she did, I had the pleasure of doing a television interview with her, and I kidded her at the end of it because of all the funny hats that she used to wear. Well, maybe some people thought they were funny. And I said, "Where did you get the hat idea?" She said, "Well, you know, my daughter got onto it. She said to me one day, 'Mom, you wear those hats because you had a bad hair night.'" I replied immediately, "I understand exactly what you're thinking about." So here, with a special tribute to Tomas Masaryk, and to introduce our guest of honor, President Václav Havel, is the Honorable Madeleine Albright.
Well, Sam, thank you very much. And for those of you that think Sam is a tough interviewer, he is, but he'd always give me kind of a wink before we got started. So I knew that I had a friend across the table. So I think we should be deeply honored that Sam is here this evening to be our Master of Ceremonies. Thank you very much, Sam. I think we've had a truly remarkable day, and the idea that Washington finally has a statue of Tomas Masaryk is wonderful, and in a great place. I drive by it every morning, so I will have a nice wave. And he really, it's a very wonderful, tall, beautiful statue, and it's kind of nice also that he's across the park from Gandhi. So it's going to, I think, be a very special place. I've thought a lot today about President Masaryk and his relationship to all of us, and primarily the comparisons that are made between him and President Havel. And this is not quite as elegant as I would like it, but I think that if we called President Masaryk the President Liberator, I think we should call President Havel the President Creator. Because what he has done through his creative approach to life is to really create now, in what was a very unhappy place for 50 years in Czechoslovakia, a democracy that we are all proud to have some tie to. And he created an atmosphere where civil society could flourish, where people could talk to each other, where there was a sense again that this was a place in the heart of Europe that understood its history and its culture and its place in Europe. And so I think that he is someone to whom we can draw so many comparisons with the first president of Czechoslovakia, that it makes a very lovely package, so to speak, of these two wonderful men. I have some very wonderful personal memories. When President Havel came to the United States the first time, I was a kind of non-paid advisor and had learned to be the world's perfect staffer, and so I was able to help prepare the trip. And when I handed President Havel all the kinds of things that would happen, and Sam, I did actually say, these are the kind of questions the press might ask you. He said, so this is a real advisor. So we started off in a wonderful way. And then when I went to Prague with President Clinton, and that's what Milton was referring to, I think of the various high moments in life is to come out of Air Force One with the President of the United States and be greeted at the bottom of the stairs by President Havel. It doesn't get any better than that. And then there was the time that I went to Prague in order to be able to welcome the Czech Republic into NATO. And that made a very full circle. And President Havel took that with such pride and a sense of responsibility. A lot of people think that being in NATO is just a gift, and President Havel understands the responsibilities that go with it. And so tonight, it is a great honor for me to introduce someone who makes us all very, very proud of our Czech heritage. We all went through a period where we didn't particularly talk about being Czech, and I think that it is President Havel who has made us all so proud to have the same blood in our veins as he does. So it is my honor to introduce what I hope will be known as the President Creator, President Václav Havel.
Dámy a pánové, vážení přítomní, děkuji společnosti American Friends of the Czech Republic za uspořádání této večeře a za možnost na ní aspoň chvíli se svou ženou a se svou delegací setrvat.
I want to thank the American Friends of the Czech Republic for hosting this dinner and offering to provide my delegation and myself the opportunity to spend some time with you on this occasion.
Především ale děkuji vám všem, kteří jste si našli čas a přišli.
First and foremost, however, I want to thank you all for finding the time to come here.
Chápu to jako skvělý výraz solidarity s občany naší země, které postihla přírodní katastrofa, jež nemá v naší dohledné historii obdoby a z níž se budeme vzpamatovávat po léta.
I see this as a wonderful manifestation of solidarity with the people of my country after we were hit by natural disaster that is unparalleled in our history and from which it will take us years to recover.
Tisíce lidí přišli o své domovy, mnoho domů, silnic a závodů je zničeno, velmi jsou poškozeny četné významné památky a v době, kdy se pokoušíme vyrovnat se konečně s trpkou minulostí svého národa, odplouvá nám kus naší minulosti do nenávratna v podobě zničených archivů.
Thousands of people have lost their homes. Countless buildings, roads, and industrial facilities are in ruins. Many precious monuments are badly damaged, at a time when we are making an effort to finally come to terms with our nation's bitter past. A part of our history has been irrevocably swept away, along with many archives that have been destroyed.
Dovolte mi proto, abych vám ze srdce poděkoval za solidaritu i za konkrétní pomoc, kterou jste se rozhodli poskytnout prostřednictvím nadace Vize 97.
Allow me, therefore, to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your solidarity and for the tangible help you have chosen to give us through the Vision 97 Foundation.
Není to poprvé, kdy Američané přicházejí na pomoc Čechům a já bych vás rád jménem svých spoluobčanů ujistil, že nezapomínáme a nezapomeneme.
This is not the first time that Americans have come to the aid of the Czechs, and on behalf of my fellow citizens, I would like to assure you that we shall not forget it, now or ever.
Once more, thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, President Havel, and of course, Secretary Albright. Thank you too. Dinner will now be served, and afterwards we will have our awards presentation. Here for the invocation is the President of the Society for the History of Czechoslovak Jews, Rabbi Norman Pates.
We gather in the afterglow of a ceremony honoring the memory of Tomas Masaryk, who from the beginning of his adult life was Europe's foremost champion of the ideals of democracy and justice. When others were shackled by the chains of prejudice, he proclaimed with simple courage the ancient but neglected truth that there is one humanity on earth, even as there is one God in heaven. In 1899, when he spoke out on behalf of Leopold Hilsner, a young Jew who had been falsely convicted of a so-called ritual murder, one of the most scurrilous charges leveled against Jews over the ages, Masaryk was vilified as a traitor to the Czech folk. Yet he continued to condemn Czech anti-Semitism as unworthy of civilized and religious people. He said it was an outrage against the healthy mind of humanity. As a man of true Christian faith, he declared, "I can be only one or the other, Christian or anti-Semite." Tomas Masaryk chose the path of truth and honor for himself, and this genius of civil courage led his people to that truth, to his and to their great and everlasting credit. This evening, as we honor three other champions of civil vision in our time, we turn in reverence to the author of liberty, the master of our destiny, the God of all being. You have called us, O God, to choose life, to seek justice, and to love one another. We learn this lesson in the grace that we, in our Jewish tradition, pronounce. We say, "We praise you, O God, you bring forth bread from the earth." But note, this is not what pops out of the ground. To make bread, God needs the farmer, the miller, the baker. Human beings are God's partners, called to complete the work of creation. Tomas Masaryk heard the summons to partnership. So may we all, for God's sake and for the sake of all humanity. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lecha min haaretz. We praise you, eternal our God, sovereign of the universe. You bring forth bread from the earth. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, now we're back to the scripted part of the evening. It is my privilege and pleasure to welcome back to the podium Mr. Sam Donaldson.
Well, it's time for our awards presentation now, but before we have them, I'd just like to recognize a few people who are here. We're honored to have Governor Tom Ridge here, the Homeland Director, Security. Governor. And we have a number of other people here. I haven't got the card with me. I just scribbled it down. I'm going to forget some people, in which case you blame me, not the committee. Chairman Ben Gilman is here. Hello, Ben. Nice to see you. Ambassador Meyer, where are you? From the UK, is here. Indeed. Yes, sir. Sir Christopher, nice to see you. Ambassador Chen from Singapore, right over here. Happy to see you. Ambassador Moreno from Colombia. Where are you, Luis? All of that. My card, just in time. And of course, with us tonight, Frank Carlucci, former Secretary of Defense. Frank. Zbigniew Brzezinski, who served President Carter so well as National Security Advisor. As I say, I scribbled all of these down, so blame me when I missed people that I should. We are now going to, however, recognize some special people from the diplomatic corps of some special countries. And I would like them to stand as I call their names, but reserve your applause. We will applaud them when, as a group, I have finished calling their names. Former President of the Slovak Republic, Michael Kovac. Martin Paluš, Ambassador of the Czech Republic to the United States. Martin Butura, who is Ambassador of the Slovak Republic to the United States. Craig Stapleton, Ambassador of the United States to the Czech Republic. And Petr Pitart, who's President of the Senate of the Czech Republic. Gentlemen, I may have mangled your names, but we're glad you're here. Next, could Tomas Gibian, a board member of American Friends of the Czech Republic, in whose name an educational and lecture series fund has been established, please stand up. And also Lyda Urbanek, who has created a donor-advised fund within the AFOCR of $50,000 for specific programs to aid Charles University in Prague. Please. We'd also like to note that Czech-American author-illustrator Peter Sis has generously donated copies of his award-winning book, The Three Golden Keys, a historic tour of Prague through the eyes of a young child. Are you here, Peter? And also, author Anne Duttlinger has given copies of her book, Art, Music, and Education, Strategies for Survival in the Tarasinas Ghetto. Now, I'm sure I didn't get that right. I'll try it one more time. Help me out. Tarasinas Ghetto. Ms. Duttlinger is here tonight. Could she please stand? Where are you? You've already stood. Fine. And finally, may I say that Sissy Spacek was planning to be here tonight. She had a happy last-minute conflict in that she was nominated for an Emmy Award for her work in the film Last Call. She's an American of Czech descent and on the advisory board of the American Friends of the Czech Republic, as well as being someone whose contribution to American cinema is unsurpassed and whose contributions to life in this United States is also unsurpassed. And we shall miss her this evening, but we understand. And now, let's begin the awards portion of the presentation. It was just 2 years ago that Madeleine Albright was honored by this organization for her outstanding efforts to further a civic society and a civil worldwide society, and our other honorees that evening included General Wesley Clark, illustrator Peter Sis, and playwright Arthur Miller, who gave a moving tribute to President Havel. Our theme again this evening is to recognize the accomplishments of two individuals and organizations that have captured the vision of civil society for which the award is made. In light of the horrific attacks of last September 11th of 2001, we can think of no more appropriate time to emphasize the value of civil society. The fact that so many of you are gathered here this evening in this building lets us all know that indeed civil society can exist throughout the world, and that the hopes and dreams of all the people must be accomplished without regard to race, religion, or gender. Our honorees this evening have broadened that vision to provide a quality of life worldwide that indeed make this a more hospitable, prosperous, and peaceful planet. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first presenter, who will tell you more about our first honoree. He's the chairman, president, and CEO of the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation, that has been a partner in helping to build a democratic society in the Czech Republic and a generous supporter of the Masaryk Memorial. He's also on the board of directors of the American Friends of the Czech Republic. And you had him stand earlier this evening, but I'd like to introduce again Mr. William S. White. Bill?
Thank you, Sam. And I've got to say, Milt, it was a great day. The American Friends of the Czech Republic is honoring the World Bank. Funny thing we're here. For two reasons. Because one of the critical position it holds in the world today, but as far as I'm concerned, and more importantly, for its good works. The World Bank has improved the quality of life for human beings everywhere. Its work in alleviating diseases like measles and AIDS, and the host of its initiatives to combat poverty around the world, puts the World Bank in the forefront of positive global change. Its efforts, often unsung, to improve the quality of life, sometimes one community at a time, with a variety of financial, medical, and governmental initiatives, have saved countless lives and made the world not only a better place, but a more civil place as well. We are honored to have President James Wolfenson here to accept the award on behalf of the World Bank. But before Jim does, I'd like to say that while this award goes to the World Bank, we're blessed to have a man of Jim's intellectual vigor, creativity, and integrity leading the bank right now. Before I present the award, please direct your attention to the screen to learn more about this vital institution.
Poverty is like heat. You cannot see it, you can only feel it. So to know poverty, you have to go through it.
I was born poor, and I'm still poor. That's all. But I'm not ashamed. I fight to survive, and I'm ashamed of nothing.
We are right at the bottom of the mountain, and we have the whole mountain ahead of us to climb.
While many of us live healthy, contented, and well-off lives, many more have to survive with little opportunity for anything better. This is poverty. How can we fight poverty and make life better for more people? This is the World Bank's mission. It works with partners in government, civil society, and the private sector to facilitate the best solutions. The work is wide-ranging. But here, we explore partnerships in education, health, HIV/AIDS, infrastructure, environment, and reconstruction. Much has been achieved over the last 30 years. Infant mortality has been reduced by 50%. Personal income has doubled. Life expectancy has increased by 10 years. But world population is due to increase by more than 2 billion in the next 25 years. Almost all of this increase will be in developing countries. The fight against poverty will become increasingly difficult. What do we need to do To win that fight, more than 113 million children between the ages of 6 and 12 years old are denied the chance to go to school in the developing world today. Well over 60% are girls. In Bangladesh, nearly half the population cannot read and write. Working with community organizations and the government, an educational program is giving opportunity to many. Girls' education is now the cornerstone to progress. Many people in rural communities in developing countries never get to see a doctor. Here, if a child breaks a leg, they have many miles to travel to get treatment. In Magdalena Pasco, in southern Mexico, helped by loans from the government and the World Bank, the community has built its own primary care facility. The result? A significant drop in children's illnesses and better family planning. In many countries, AIDS is rapidly reversing the hard-won development achievements of the past 50 years. Today, 40 million people are HIV positive, and the number is growing rapidly. Guinea, like much of Africa, is trying to cope with this problem, particularly among the young. The Ministry of Health is taking the battle against AIDS to the streets by having young volunteers work directly with their peers on AIDS education. Reliable roads, safe bridges, good sanitation, clean drinking water, and adequate housing are all building blocks for development. About 900 million people in rural areas lack reliable all-weather roads, which means their access to markets, jobs, and medical care is limited. In Indonesia, for example, many villages are remote and isolated. When the rainy season comes, even the tracks get washed away. But now, 10,000 villages have received funds to build roads, bridges, sanitation units, and wells to provide clean drinking water. Other projects, many large-scale ones, have dramatically increased the well-being of many more people. But we have learned that large-scale projects must respond to and respect the environment we live in. We ignore the natural world and pay the price. Depleted soils, insufficient water, rapidly disappearing forests, collapsed fisheries threaten the quality of life for millions of people. In the Philippines, many fishermen rely on the diversity of fish available in the coral reefs. But the coral reefs and the fish are being rapidly depleted by large-scale fisheries and other activities. This has destroyed the fishermen's living. The fish used to breed in the mangrove swamps, but many of them were torn up to make way for commercial farms. Communities are now replanting the mangroves and seeing a return of the fish species as a result. Communities cannot succeed when governments do not function efficiently and effectively on behalf of their citizens. Many countries suffer from corruption, high levels of external debt, and internal conflicts. One of the poorest countries in the world, Mozambique, has struggled with crippling debt for a long time. Years of war have ravaged the country. Working with worldwide partners, agreements have now been made to ease Mozambique's debt, and the country is now moving ahead with a concerted program of health, education, and social investment programs to assist the poorest. Remember that the World Bank's initial role was a reconstruction bank. Today, the bank is still active in post-conflict reconstruction. Bosnia-Herzegovina, 1995. The brutal four-year war had ended, leaving hundreds of thousands of people dead, wounded, or driven from their homes. Bombed and neglected, the economy lay in shambles. The jobless rate had soared to a staggering 90% and was rising. The government and the World Bank established the Local Initiatives Project. The program aims to help the jobless, especially women, to start their own businesses. 74,000 loans have been disbursed to micro-entrepreneurs, creating or sustaining about 100,000 jobs. The fight against poverty means development. Development to prevent disease and sickness. Development to give opportunity through education and community involvement, through better government and through increased economic growth. Development means expanding the ability of people to shape their lives. This is the World Bank's mission.
And now it's my pleasure to present the Civil Society Vision Award to the World Bank, and here to accept it is James Wolfenson, its president. Jim. Very good. Thank you very much. Good.
Well, may I thank you very much indeed, Mr. White, and all of you for this award, which I accept on behalf of my colleagues in the bank. We are an institution, as you can see, that is committed to the ideals of peace and social justice. And to have this award on a day when we're honoring Tomas Masaryk is a wonderful connection between us and your society. We have high regard for the Czech Republic and for the Slovak Republic. And indeed, we'd hoped that that statue might be placed in front of our building. I remember that several of you came to see me about a year ago and said, would it be okay with you if we put it in front of the building? And I said, so long as there's room for my statue, I have no objection. But mine is on a horse, but it's not yet done, I have to tell you. But with great regret, we learned that it was being relocated in a more august location. But we want you to know that in spirit, we feel that this statue is outside our building. And we want you to know also that we treasure our relationship with the Czech Republic. We have deep personal and business ties, and we thank you, that is I and all my colleagues here, for this recognition. It's a great, great honor for us. Thank you so much. Here to introduce our next honoree is another American hero of Czech descent. He flew aboard the Gemini 9, Apollo 10, and Apollo 17 space missions, and in fact had the Cernan Earth and Space Center named after him. Please welcome a really great guy. He's an AFOCR board member, the last man so far to walk on the moon, astronaut Eugene Cernan. Gene.
Thank you, Sam. You're too generous, and I do appreciate the fact that you can speak the Czech language no better than I can. I know Pivo and a couple words my grandfather spoke that I wasn't supposed to understand, which I cannot repeat here at the time. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me to be with you, among you tonight. And I stand here with great humility and yet with great pride as an American of both Czech and, Mr. President, Slovak heritage. There are no impurities in what you see. It's all here, Czech and Slovak, and I'm very, very proud. And as I said, an American of Czech and Slovak descent. Now I have the special pleasure and privilege of presenting to you this evening another distinguished or a distinguished human being. The theme of tonight's award has been to celebrate the contributions of those who have furthered civil society with their leadership and vision. And this year we have broadened this concept to include those whose vision has improved the quality of life worldwide in hopes of developing a more hospitable planet in which we inhabit. And our next honoree certainly could not be more deserving. As Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of American International Group, Inc., he is one of this nation's foremost industrialists. His achievements in international trade, particularly in the Pacific Rim, have contributed substantially to world trade and the economies of the entire planet. And when you add the fact that he is a bona fide war hero and a noted philanthropist, we could not have found a more worthy recipient. Here is a video to tell you more about Maurice Greenberg.
In today's business world, sometimes past success does indicate future results. In Tom Brokaw's book, The Greatest Generation, the author highlights part of Hank Greenberg's amazing history, something on which Greenberg himself does not dwell.
Hi, I'm Tom Brokaw in New York, and I'm very pleased to read what I wrote about Hank Greenberg in The Greatest Generation. Hank Greenberg is another titan of American business who started life with more brains and ambition than promise. He grew up poor on a farm in the Catskills, often getting up in the middle of the night to check his trap lines for mink and muskrat in hopes of making some extra change, and then walking 4.5 miles to school every day. His reputation as a tough and resourceful manager who was willing to take calculated risks and make them pay off later in life soon attracted the attention of C.V. Starr, a flamboyant Californian who had established a worldwide insurance empire called American International Group, AIG. It was a privately held firm and already a success by the time Greenberg arrived after World War II and service in Korea in 1960. It is now a colossus, and Hank Greenberg, named by the way for the famous Detroit slugger Hank Greenberg, he's only the second chief executive officer that AIG has ever had. It's a far-flung insurance empire and financial services company. He has built it into an $88 billion mega power around the world. Hank, congratulations.
Most people know Maurice Greenberg, Hank to his friends and colleagues, as a public man, a policymaker, as a giant of international commerce and trade, and a presidential advisor. But they only know one side. Tonight, we're here to take a look at the other side of the man.
But I think there have been two trailblazer CEOs of this generation. One's Jack Welch. The other's Hank Greenberg. I don't know whether Hank is the Jack Welch of the financial services business or Jack is the Hank Greenberg of the corporate world.
His accomplishments are legendary. Since taking AIG public in 1969, he's boasted earnings about 20%. A remarkable consistency in a cyclical business.
Remember, we're a global company. We do business in over 140 countries. We have the largest international network of both general insurance, non-life, and life insurance. We're the biggest in both of those. And then we've added retirement savings to what we do with the acquisition of Sun America. We have a financial services business, which is, if not the largest, the second largest airline leasing company in the world. I'd say the best. We have a big derivative business. We started a credit card business in Asia, and it's growing very well.
Hank Greenberg's Manhattan office bears witness to his many worlds. A long-standing Asia-phile and consort of world leaders, he's also a ski buff, whose company owns a Vermont mountain. And there is another side to Hank Greenberg. In 1994, construction began on one of the most ambitious projects ever undertaken. A 12-story, state-of-the-art annex to New York Hospital.
Mr. Greenberg came to the hospital at a time when the hospital was in considerable need, and he both advised, counseled, and directly supported the effort to build a spectacular pavilion named for him, and which now houses some of the best clinical care given anywhere in the world.
This is the other side of Hank Greenberg, the side that not everybody knows, but that impacts so many different lives in ways they may never imagine. It's the side that earned Hank the Jackie Robinson Award for his legacy of compassion and commitment to the community.
I've learned from him that responsibility means being generous with all aspects of yourself, with your ideas, with your energy, with your time, and your money. He's one hell of a role model, I'll tell you.
So, what makes a Hank Greenberg?
He's got the brains of a genius, he's got the energy of a 29-year-old, and he's got the generosity of a saint.
And how does Hank Greenberg see himself?
Right now, I like what I do, I have passion for what I do, and I think I do it reasonably well.
In recognition for his leadership, commitment to community, and unwavering contributions to our global economy, tonight, American Friends of the Czech Republic honors Maurice Hank Greenberg with the Civil Society Vision Award.
Now I'm sure you will understand why it is a special honor and special privilege for me to stand here tonight and award the Civil Society Vision Award to Mr. Hank Greenberg.
Eugene, thank you very much, and thank all of you for coming. It's a special pleasure, really, to share the evening with Jim Wolfenson and Fred Masaryk, two old and good friends, who are more deserving of this award, really, than I am. And the American Friends of the Czech Republic does a great job. You know, they've done a great deal to really foster trade and commerce between our country and the Czech Republic. And AIG started there 10 years ago and now has a number of businesses that are flourishing and employing many people. So you do great work, and thank all of you for helping to make this a good evening. There are many things that have to be done in the Czech Republic now after the floods, which were devastating, as was reported earlier. And I'm pleased that the Star Foundation, which I chair, is another hat, is doing some things to help in that regard. And I hope everybody here can help as well. Thank you again for this evening's award.
Now, here to introduce our final awardee is the State Treasurer of Illinois. She has the distinction of being the first woman in Illinois history to hold the post of treasurer, and she made history again in November 1998 when she won a second term. Please welcome American Friends of the Czech Republic Director, Ms. Judy Bar-Topinka. Judy?
Well, thank you very much, Sam, to all, and certainly thanks for everybody being here to honor a son of Illinois. Fred Masaryk stands out in not one, two, or three, but in 4 areas of public interest: corporate management, government, politics, and finance. And he's been successful in all of them. Like Hank Greenberg, he's an American war veteran. He served his country with honor in the Special Forces in Vietnam. And he is an American of Czech descent and has distinguished himself as both a diplomat, philanthropist worldwide. It's my great pleasure tonight to introduce this video that will highlight the contributions this gentleman has made to civil societies everywhere, all the time, and he demonstrates why we feel he is so deserving of tonight's honor. So let's roll the tape.
A destiny to meet, a potential to fulfill, an ascent few can rival. Fred Malek's remarkable rise to leadership from his parents' house to the White House has embodied the very spirit of democracy. Who knew that one day the young boy from Berwyn, Illinois, born Czech American, would catch the eye of political leaders, the ear of presidents, and the foothold into the shaping of world events? Of course, his parents knew. Both Martha and Fred Sr. saw the burning drive in Fred from the very beginning. With his solid upbringing, they knew Fred would be up for any challenge. The whole family was behind him, but no one was more elated than Uncle Zach upon hearing of Fred's acceptance to West Point. So strong an influence, West Point would inspire Fred to later name his company Thayer, after the father of the revered academy. With graduation from West Point, Fred found new reservoirs of bravery, serving in Vietnam. From student to soldier to student again, Harvard Business School welcomed the already accomplished Malek. Little did they know the force they would unleash on the business world.
How can he be involved in so many different ventures and other kinds of activities and always make it look like it's so easy? You know, he's always calling in to board meetings from bicycling trips in France or from one or the other of his vacation homes, and he's still involved in managing all these activities. That I've concluded that he is the Tom Sawyer of the business world. The Tom Sawyer of the business world. He not only gets everybody else to paint the fence, but he makes them think they've got a really good deal.
Malek formed his first company, Triangle, partnering with two longtime friends. Before long, duty would once again call, but this time the White House was on the line. The boy from Berwyn makes good as President Nixon's Deputy Undersecretary of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare.
I, Frederick B. Malek, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies.
More impressive than that, at the age of 35, Malek becomes the Deputy Director of the White House Office of Management and Budget. Mr. Malek would later serve President Reagan on the Executive Committee of the Council on Cost Control, and later on the President's Commission on Private Sector Initiatives, and on the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports. Fred directed the 1988 Republican Convention, acted as the ambassador to the Economic Summit of Industrialized Nations, and campaign manager for Bush in '92.
I've known Fred for over 30 years, and throughout that 30-year period, he has done everything he could to improve his community, to give back, to show that he is the kind of citizen we want in every community.
Spanning 2 decades, Malek advised 4 presidents during a critical period as the United States assumed its role as a leader of the free nations against communism. Still, the private sector remained unconquered.
And let me say to the audience that Fred Malek is my friend. He is one of the few Republicans that I really like and spend time with. But quite beyond that, he is a citizen, a patriot, a philanthropist, and an excellent businessman who understands investing and getting returns on those investments.
Malek partnered with George W. Bush and Craig Stapleton to buy the Texas Rangers. With baseball in his heart, Malek has been active in trying to bring the sport to the nation's capital. Of course, he didn't do it all alone. Married for 41 years to the woman he credits as having made his life easy, Marlene Malik has been the inspiration behind Fred's stellar career in public and private circles. We all know she's been secretly running things all along.
We've had quite a life together. We've traveled a lot. We have wonderful things in common. We share everything. And we're just I think, a wonderful family.
A strong family man with 2 children and a grandchild he cherishes, Fred Malik leads the well-rounded life that fuels his success. From an ordinary background, an extraordinary man arose to become president of Marriott Hotels, president of Republic Airlines, and a highly successful CEO of a leading investment company. But that's only part of the story of how Fred has become active in the support of philanthropy in his community and the world. One of his favorite charities, the Boy Scouts of America, recently honored Fred as their Citizen of the Year. Former President George Bush, although unable to attend, shared his well wishes to Fred and all in attendance at the event.
Well, you've been a personal friend for many years, and I cannot think of anyone more deserving of this honor. Through your tremendous accomplishments as a young man at the Point, at West Point, and in Vietnam, to your distinguished career in the public and private sector, you've truly exemplified what the Boy Scouts of America teaches our young people: to strive to do your best, to stay true to your principles, and to be prepared for the challenges life has for you.
American Friends of the Czech Republic proudly honors Fred Malik with the Civil Society Vision Award for his leadership, contributions to community, and proud representation of his Czech American heritage.
And now it's my pleasure to present the Civil Society Vision Award to, of course, Fred Malik.
Wow, that's quite a video. Thanks, Marlene. You know, what Judy didn't say, or what you don't know, is that Judy Topinka, Milt Cerny, and myself all grew up in the same town in Illinois, Berwyn, Illinois. The town, when we lived there, Judy, of Milt, about 40,000 people, 80% of which, when we lived there, were of Czech descent. I didn't know anybody. I knew very few people who were of Czech descent. I thought everybody was Czech when I was growing up. And if you had asked anybody back then, my parents, my friends, certainly myself, where I was going in life, and if you would have ever said that someday I would be at a podium sharing an honor with world leaders, with business dynamos like Hank Greenberg and James Wolfenson, I would have been stunned beyond belief and simply would have said, "You're out of your minds." Because when you come from that background, that modest community, where, I don't know, Milt, maybe 20% of the kids got to go to college. Most of them didn't, because you didn't think about those kind of things. And you get a few breaks in life that propel you forward to West Point, and where I shared many experiences with my good friends, Harry Walters and Jim Kimsey, who are here tonight. You just don't think in those terms. And it indeed is a humbling experience to me to be in the presence of such distinguished people and such extraordinary honorees to accept this honor. And I know that the only reason I am up here is because I'm the only one of the 3 that really is Czech. But it is a great honor, and to share part of the evening with President Havel and with our ambassador to the Czech Republic and the ambassador Czech Republic to the United States is just so moving and so meaningful, and to be a part of an event that gives something back to the Czech Republic, which is my heritage and will always be and always has been my heritage, is an honor that I never could have comprehended, And from the bottom of my heart, I thank all of you for coming here, and particularly to Mil Cerny, who's the president of the American Friends of the Czech Republic, who really made all of this possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fred. Now, we're going to close this beautiful evening with a song. But before we do, I want to, Milt Cerny, where are you? I want to thank you personally for allowing me to be the Master of Ceremonies here tonight. Mangle or no mangle, it's been an honor for me for inviting me to be here. And I'd like to congratulate all the honorees who, of course, no matter what Fred says, richly deserve this award. Now, we're fortunate to have with us tonight Brian Chu, a baritone with the Baltimore Opera, accompanied by harpist Michaela Trnova, and they'll perform 2 Czech-Slovak folk songs by Dvorak. Then we will all sing God Bless America, after which, ladies and gentlemen, we will be adjourned.
In addition to the tangible reminder of Masaryk, the American Friends of the Czech Republic will also manage a scholarship fund that will assure that the legacy of TGM will not be forgotten again.
Ta naše písnička česká, ta je tak hezká, tak jako na louce kytička, vyrostla ta naše písnička, až se ta písnička ztratí, pak už nic nebudem mít. Jestli nám zahyne, všechno s ní pomine, potom už nebudem žít.